Welcome to the Raising Values podcast, where the traditional family talks. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify, and be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You can support the Raising Values podcast through Patreon. Phil and Gillian are behind the mic, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Hey everybody, I have totally boogered this whole thing up this morning, forgot the overlay. We started talking a minute ago without going live. It's just been that kind of a morning.
We introduced the show and everything, and then it was like, wait, I haven't gone live. So I was like, it's okay. I mean...
You should fire your producer.
No, because my producer does way more than... I guess, get to do the fun part, so...
So yeah, welcome back to Raising Values. I'm a little off this morning. We're going to make it through. I thought of the perfect title for the show like 2.5 minutes before we went live. We should have called it the Parent-Teacher Conference.
Yeah. But
back to school works too.
Yeah, so I just, like we say on all of our episodes, we thought of, I was like, what, this last week was my last week of summer. Piper starts school on Thursday. I'm back at work. I've actually been back in my classroom a couple of times this week, but
it looks
tomorrow,
awesome, by the way.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna post pictures. It's looking pretty cool.
It's like STEM teacher heaven. It's like your little happy place.
It really is. It's really cool this year. I'm excited about it, and I don't know. Who knows? Maybe by May I'll have neon slinkies hanging from all of the ceiling and not just over my Promethean board, but just. Like always, we're on our walk, and I was like, why don't we do a back to school episode? I think people need to be reminded of some things and maybe get a teacher's perspective, and I'm a mom as well, so let's just do a back to school episode. And then I start just like hammering out all these banners, and I'm like, are you going to take notes? And he's like, not right now, we're walking. And I was like, we're going to forget. Shoot. But anyway, so we got quite a few banners today. Thank you, Nina. Yeah, I got 8 inches cut off my hair, and I look like a totally different person. I feel like a totally different person, but anyway, so back to school. If it's not yet your time to go back to school,
it will be.
I imagine that come Monday, your Facebook feeds and your Instagram feeds are going to be full of first day pictures, all that stuff, and it's 2023-24 school year. We are past COVID. We are hopefully getting into more of a routine and back to normal, and quote unquote normal. What's normal, right? And I just feel like, there are still a few hybrid schools going on. I know that there's actually one that we're considering sending Piper to, because once she's done, she's got 6th grade and 7th grade, and once she's done, she's in high school down here. So 8th through 9th grade in the private school section is high school for her. And I don't think she's going back to public. I will tell you some stats just to kind of... It was, anyway, the LEAP scores for the public school in our parish came out, and... if you don't know, Louisiana is 48th in the nation. Like, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Up one from 49th.
48th in the bottom of the nation for education. And my Facebook feed was, now this is not to say anything negative about our teachers. I think our teachers in this parish do an amazing job with what they're given, and they're not given a lot. And we are one of the wealthiest parishes in the state, and our teachers still can't. They got a $500 raise for the first time. I want to say it was 5 years. That's probably 7 years. But anyway, and they were told, you should be happy about this. You got a $500 raise last year. So they're not given the tools that they need to be successful in the classroom, and they are basically told, teach the test. And for a lot of reasons, just like everywhere in the country, especially here in St. Tammany Parish, there's a teacher shortage, and our teachers are fed up, and they're done with the bureaucracy and not being able to teach students what they need to know. They're just teaching them to get those higher grades on the test. So anyway,
they're equally tired, because there's been several of them express this. They're equally tired of like very, let's call them behaviorally disrupted students and violent students.
We'll get there.
And attempts by them to like follow the established process for separating that child from the classroom, and it failing because the bureaucracy doesn't want to send the kid home, or the bureaucracy doesn't want to deal with the parents, or
they don't want the mark on that school.
Well, and very often we're also seeing that the R word gets thrown around about, well, you're just being mean to this kid because of some aspect of their appearance, and that's the reason it's happening. So to avoid that, the bureaucracy is allowing the kid to stay in the class until what's happened several times around here is that the kid is physically assaulted the teacher.
Yeah, and
seriously sometimes.
Right, and if you're talking about one instance here in Covington that made national news with a TikTok challenge, and the teacher was beat to a bloody pulp in the classroom, and it was recorded and all that stuff. There was lawsuits. She's in jail. I don't think it was insane what happened. But teachers today I just can remember like my first grade teacher, Miss McClung. And I'm friends with her on Facebook. She is, I think of her, and when she tells me something about me being a teacher or how proud she is of me and things like, she was my first grade teacher. I just get this sense of pride from her. It's like, yeah, Miss McClung says that she's proud of me. And I can remember being in her class, and you did not act the way that kids act today. But I think, getting back on track, COVID really messed. Oh wait, I have to talk about what I was talking about. You took me away from. We're the 48th in the nation for education. Well, my Facebook feed was just all alight because the LEAP test came back, scores came back for St. Tammany Parish. And did you change the banner?
Yes, I changed the banner.
Why we went private and the changes that had to take place is what the banner says.
That's where we're at.
And because St. Tammany Parish they tied for 5th place in the state.
And used to be the best in the state.
48th in the nation. So we were like, yay, we tied for 5th, which meant that 48% of the kids tested mastery, which is what you need to advance into the next grade. And 52% either were basic or I can't think of approaching basic, but basic or approaching basic. And I think basic is what you need to advance, but you really need mastery, meaning that you've mastered all the skills of that grade level to advance. So 52%, over half of the kids in the parish, were either almost getting all of the information that they needed from that grade level, or they were right at grade level standards. I great for those kids. I think I think that is great, but all of our kids we shouldn't be tying for 5th, especially in one of the wealthiest, if not the wealthiest parishes in the state. But 48th in the nation. I just didn't think that there was much to cheer for. I don't say that to take away from the work that our teachers and our students have done, and everyone in the nation has had to come back from COVID and all those things. But when Piper was in public school, it started off great. Our first grade teacher was amazing. She was communicative.
You were
I was almost there. Y'all know me and my words. We were active in the classroom. If I could get off work and go to parties or help in the classroom, I was right there. There was all this back and forth communication. Second grade started off great. I'm still friends with our second grade teacher. Same thing. If I was able to get off work and go to parties, I was there. Parents were present. And then, of course, COVID hit. And then everyone said, parents are out. And I think a lot of things happened. Obviously, they're going to say parents are out because, big scary virus. We can't have different people coming in and out, which makes no sense because if the kid is coming in from the home, they still have, thank you, Stuart. They still can't have, they can still carry the virus. But anyway, we won't go down that road. But I think parents and schools found how nice it was that, oh, you're making me stay home, I can't come today, oh shucks. And they reprioritized their life, and their kid took a back seat, and it became one less thing that they had to worry about. And then for schools, it was like, great, we don't have to worry about parents being here, they don't have to check in, and we don't have to keep monitoring, and where are they, and who are they with, and keep up with all these volunteers. And so everybody was just kind of like, what am I trying to say, Phil? Like they no longer had to worry about this thing that they had created with parents.
Yeah. The system suffered a system shock, basically. The established way of doing things was suddenly disrupted, and whether or not that was ultimately better, it was perceived as being better because it was a break from the norm.
Right, and I think that there was a lot of relief on both sides because, like I said, parents didn't feel like they had to attend. Like they could tell little Johnny, oh baby, I can't come to your party today because parents aren't allowed in the classroom. And then they didn't have to worry about taking off of work and finding a sub or whatever, different ways that people have to call off of work. And so there was a little bit of relief there. There was an out. There was something there. And then same for the schools. Like, oh, we would really love for you to come and help, but we just can't. It's COVID, blah, blah, blah. Piper's third grade year, obviously, we never met her teacher. I probably emailed with her twice. I don't even remember her name. There was just, it was nuts. And fourth grade year was even crazier. And that was when they were back in class. I could walk into the building to check her out. I didn't have to buzz or phone someone from outside and show my license on the glass door and all that BS that we all had to do to take care of our own children. And we pulled her out. After that year, she would come home in tears. She was in the gifted program, which meant that she was a pull-out student, which meant that she would meet in her homeroom. Well, she was gifted in all subjects, so she would do the first subject, and then they would pull her out and do all the other subjects the rest of the day. Well, gifted teachers were kind of, they really didn't care. So if their gifted teacher was out for the day, they wouldn't try to find a substitute. Hang on, I'll get to that comment.
I'll leave it up.
They wouldn't try to find a substitute. They just put those kids back in the classroom, which meant that they weren't getting their legally mandated hours as a gifted student. And Piper would come home and tell us that she would just have to sit in her desk in her homeroom, which wasn't being managed by the teacher, earphones on, and she would have to work on her stuff. If she had questions, she'd just have to wait till her gifted teacher came back. And she'd come home in tears because Piper is the type of student that you tell her to do something, she's going to do it. You tell her not to do something, she's not going to do it. Well, she was given this task of, well, here's your assignment for the day, get it done. Well, now she's met a wall because she doesn't understand what she's working on. And her homeroom teacher is telling her, I'm not your gifted teacher, I can't help you. And
then she would come home to two very frustrated parents, a very frustrated child. And I can remember, babe, it was a lot of times it was an hour and a half in the afternoons eating into our downtime as a family to help her do her homework, which I've never begrudged her because I'm a parent. That's my job, is to help my kid overcome whatever she needs to. But I was frustrated because I'm like, okay, so the school, because the teacher was out, the school has shifted this burden to her homeroom teacher, who has then kicked the can down the road to us. Mm-hmm. What is the point of my child going to this school? And not to be all crazy libertarian on y'all for a second, but what is the point of the state threatening to put me in jail if I don't send my kid to this place.
Oh wait, yeah, we'll tell that
holding
story.
Holding me at gunpoint to take my tax dollars, because don't pay your taxes for a couple of years and see what happens, guys. That's not hyperbole.
Not that we've done that.
No, but it's not hyperbole. It's not me being like over the top, like holding me at gunpoint to take my money from me, to pay for this system that then turns around and says, well, we didn't feel like teaching your kid today. Go home.
I'm
She's
not
your
the
problem.
gifted teacher.
Yeah, to like.
Don't even get me started on Common Core.
I'll get off.
I think we opened a can of worms with this subject.
I'm sure we did, but like, I'll get off my soapbox. But like, let's say that my mood oscillated throughout that school year between angry and venomous towards the school, the whole system.
The whole system. But what we saw, I mean, that was the tip of the iceberg. Phil and I. We attended the, what?
Kyle saying I need to step up my beard game because your hair is fancy.
Nah. What are we going to do, add glitter? Kyle, you come with some suggestions on how to step up Phil's beard game.
Viking beads and braid it.
Yeah, okay.
Do we want to catch Garden Girl's comment?
Yeah, I think, so she says that she was the treasurer of her son's orchestra booster club, which sounds amazing. The first meeting, there were over 50 parents. Then they realized they didn't have to come, and the meeting may only have about 7 people.
I hate to say it, but yeah.
I really do think that is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the relief parents were given when they said you don't have to attend, you don't have to come, you don't have to be a part of it.
Can't. Wasn't even.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can't. And they were slowly taken out of the picture, which meant they didn't have to prioritize their children. And now we're seeing the fallout in the kids, especially the ones that were going to start kindergarten COVID year, and everybody, or started kindergarten COVID year, and everybody was told to go home, and then the next year was disrupted, and the next year was less disrupted, but still disrupted.
And when they came back, it was forced masking, which, like, I can argue with anybody for hours about whether or not masking was a good or a smart policy, or whether or not it was helpful. But what no one can argue with me, and I will die on the hill every time, is that masking these very young children was detrimental to their ability to learn language skills. It's been proven in so many studies. It's so evident that it was detrimental to them, and that hand grenade has the pin pulled out of it. And as it goes through the school system, you're going to see the explosion.
Well, and I do think that because kids are so resilient, and they're such quick learners, there's a lot that's going on to close that gap. And I see it every day in my school. We have speech therapists that come in and pull kids out of classes.
But point of order, your school is not the lowest rated parish in the 48th state out of the country.
True.
So I guess what I'm saying is, like, yes, call your school and the private schools in this area kind of a high watermark for being able to overcome being hobbled at that young age intellectually. But for the public school system in some of these parishes with poorer scores, less effort, less money, whatever, those kids may never recover.
They may not.
I mean,
they may not.
Well, I mean, they're famously, notoriously, like, there are kids that graduate, like, from New Orleans public schools before COVID who were functionally illiterate by the time they got a high school diploma. So, like, I guess what I look at is, like, if that was where we were before, and now we have stunted these children's development in their formative years, when those kids get to high school age, I don't know what situation we're going to have.
Yeah.
It's going to be bad.
Well, and so the icing on the cake for us was beginning of Piper's 4th grade year. The mandate came out, I think, from the governor in August. So like a week before school started, we were told all these wonderful things. We're going back to normal. The kids aren't going to have to be masked. We're going to do, parents can come back. Buses will be loaded again. Like, we won't have to do whatever we were doing. A week before school starts, another mandate comes out from the governor. Well, our what was I going to to say? Guys, I'm so sorry. We had such a late night last night. Our school board decided, well, the money is better because most every school district was told by their governors, if you don't go by the mandates, you won't get your money. And so our school board was like, well, yeah, screw the kids, we need money, or we want the money. It's not like our payers in this parish don't pay the astronomical,
I know.
what am I trying to say?
It's not like the tax, like we have the highest.
I'm a little heated.
We have one of the highest state income tax brackets here in this parish. We have, I believe,
salary. That's what I'm trying to say.
I believe we have the highest property taxes in the entire state in this parish. Like, there is anybody that alleges that our school system, our public school system in this parish is failing is because of a lack of money. I would like to talk to you. I'd like to be your real estate agent because I've got beachfront property in Arizona that I would love to discuss with you.
Our school board president makes
more than you and me and two of our friends put together.
6 figures with a, I want to say another 5-figure car allowance. I mean, this man is, he is so...
He makes more than the governor does.
Yeah, he does. He makes more than the governor of the state does, which is ridiculous. Anyway, so the mandate came out, something about school buses, I can't even remember at this point, and parents showed up to that school board meeting, and bus drivers showed up to that school board meeting, teachers, doctors, nurses. I mean,
Everybody was pissed.
There was hundreds of people in the parking lot of the school board office. We were locked out. We were told we couldn't go in. We couldn't do, if you didn't sign up by a certain time, you weren't allowed in. There was no, we weren't having to, well, actually, yeah, there was still the 6 feet apart rule going on, but there was nobody in there. There was no audience. They locked the doors, called the police, and told them to basically stand guard. And they locked the citizens out of a public building, which is illegal.
In the state of Louisiana, that is patently illegal. Like, we have what's referred to as the sunrise laws, or it's colloquially referred to as that, and like, you have to have meetings of a public governing board during daylight hours, and they have to be available to the public except for very, very narrow exceptions. And those exceptions do not include the flu is going around.
Right, yeah. So anyway, so that was the icing on the cake for us. We sat outside and everyone had their phones out because they broadcast this on YouTube, so you can always watch the school board meetings, but you can't participate on YouTube. It's not like they're going to look for comments and read like we do.
They didn't care about the people that were in the room.
Well, they didn't care about anybody who was outside, chanting and all that stuff. Well, anyway, that was the icing on the cake for us. We decided at that point it was time to pull Piper, but the school year had started. We weren't in the place financially that we could just pull her and put her in private school. And I know that is a lot of people's hang up with getting out of public school is going to private. Well, we prayed and prayed and prayed. I just couldn't figure out what we were going to do. I mean, the next day I was looking for openings in private schools just to kind of see if we could swing it. Was there financial aid and all that stuff?
The other problem we had was that, like, she was in the gifted program, and I think you and I both had like some hope, some outside hope that maybe because she was in the gifted program, and like, Gillian and I talked about this. Like, she went through most of her primary education up in North Louisiana. I graduated from St. Tammany Parish Public Schools. Like, this is the school system I graduated from a very long time ago. I'd rather not recount how many years ago, but like a long time ago. And I was in the gifted program, which, for anybody not familiar with that, it's advanced placement, it's accelerated learning, it is whatever term you give to it, but like, there's a minimum IQ score pretty much required just to get into it. And it can be a very challenging program, so I kind of had an expectation of, okay, if this is somewhat the same program it was when I went through it, it will challenge her, it will hold her, it will provide value that I feel, it's like I told Gillian at the time, I'm like, if she was in regular ed public school versus private school, there's no contest.
Right.
But my hope was that I'm like, okay, she's in gifted program. Maybe the difference between that and private school won't be as great. And then because of the way the program was administered, I don't feel like because of what the program was, but because of the way it was administered by the school bureaucracy, we finally had enough. It's like there's no point in her doing the additional work and pushing herself to learn these more advanced concepts faster if every time the teacher's out, the school just lets her sit in a classroom by herself functionally. Like, it was inappropriate.
Right. So anyway, ultimately, obviously, we pulled her out of public school and we went back to the private school that she had always gone to. And I went to teach there. So that actually helped with the tuition. And I mean, we still have to pay tuition, but it definitely helped with the tuition. I absolutely love being able to see her every day. I get to teach her twice a week. It's very nice, but I know that that's not everyone's story. But I do think that if you're going through something like we did in our public school system, and you have the ability, you have the capability of going to private, I would suggest you do. And I know that that's not for everybody, but there's just so much that goes on in our public schools that I think COVID was the beginning of it. I think it was the start of pushing parents away so that they could have better access to their kids, like the school officials and things could have better access to those kids without parent involvement and parents telling them, no, don't do this, or no, we don't think that that's appropriate, or whatever. So that kind of leads me into the next banner, which is COVID is over and parents need to come back. And I said this last year when I started back at my old school. It was such a different feeling because parents were still not coming back into the classroom. We didn't see a lot of volunteers and things like that. And as a parent, I think it is so important that you're around and you get to kind of see what's going on in the environment that you're sending your kid to. Talk to the people that your kids are dealing with every single day. I mean, quite honestly, it's more like in reference to like when you go to your job, you spend more time there with those people than you do with your family during the week, because half the time you're home, you're sleeping. So it's important to see who your kids are spending time with. Get to know the teachers, get to know the administration, get to know the janitor, get to know the lunch ladies. Like, you should be so far up their butts to know where you're sending your kids, because quite honestly, when it all boils down at the end of the day, you're your kid's only cheerleader. You're the only one that's really going to look out for your kid. And you're the only one that's going to keep them safe. That's not what I meant. I have to go back, because teachers will keep your kids safe for the most part.
No one will prioritize your child like you.
Thank you.
You should.
Phil to the rescue with my words. Thank you. Yeah.
That's why I'm the producer.
But I really think that parents need to come out of their shells now. I think it's time for parents to prioritize their children again. And not just in schools, but at home. Like, what we're seeing right now in the classroom is, sure, they're lacking in education for the most part across the nation. But they're lacking in social skills, they're lacking in manners, they're lacking in discipline, everything. And it's like the first time that parents were told, okay, you can check out. Like, you can't come anyway, just check out. That's fine. They never wanted to come back. And, like, I've already decided I'm going to dedicate a month of my teaching, my curriculum this year. The M in STEM, because I'm a STEM teacher, is going to stand for manners. And I'm going to teach these kids manners. I see them two times a week. And we're going to learn manners. We're going to learn what it means how to speak to an adult, what to do when an adult comes into your classroom, how to speak to your friends, how to, raise your hand, say please, say thank you, and, just be a little bit more respectful, be kind. And, a lot of these kids, everything that was just handed to them, it was like, you have to be home. Well, here's my phone, here's your iPad, here's the TV, here's the computer, just go do whatever you want to do. And we're seeing the fallout from that so much. And these kids just kind of look at you like, well, what do you mean I need to say please to you? Who are you? You're my teacher. I've even had, I've had one kid tell me, well, don't you know who my mom is? Or don't you know who my grandmother is? And I'm like, I don't care who you are related to, what blood is running through your body. You will say please and thank you to me. You will call me Miss Rabelais and not, hey girl. I got that last year. Hey girl. Yeah, girl. I'm like, girl? You're 4th grade. I don't think so, ma'am.
I could fix that in about 5 minutes.
No, I fixed it.
Okay.
Only
I get to call her hey girl.
Hey girl. Something, I don't know. She just kept calling me girl, and I'm like, you are a 9-year-old, 10-year-old little girl in 4th grade. I am not your girl. We're gonna nip that in the bud. But anyway, it starts at home. It really starts at home, and I think that you need to find your teacher's email address. You need to keep in contact with your teacher. I think if there is a parent group that you can join for your class, you need to be a part of it. Your kids need to see you showing up, and the teachers need your help. They really need parent involvement back in the classroom again. And that's just me. I think that's my point of view. I'm sure there are teachers out there going, well, thank God I don't have I don't have the parents down my throat anymore telling me what to do or whatever. As a parent, I just think it's time for parents to wake back up and reprioritize their life again. Like we can't keep going back to, well, COVID, and during COVID this happened, and well, when it was COVID, it's time to move on. We've got to move on and be there for our kids, because what we're doing is setting them up to fail, and it's not the teacher's responsibility to teach your kids how to adult.
It's not the teacher's responsibility to raise your children. Like, to be libertarian, Phil, for just a moment, like, that's something we talk about in libertarianism a lot, where people attempt to, there's a word I'm searching for, and I'm pulling a Gillian. I can't remember what that word is off the top of my head, but people attempt to, like, something they should be doing for themselves, they attempt to give that responsibility to somebody else, ostensibly like the state, the bureaucracy, the whatever. And as soon as we get through talking about it, I'll remember what that phrase is, and it's going to really upset me. But as a parent, we cannot attempt to give 100% of the responsibility for raising our children to teachers. Teachers don't have a framework with which to raise children, to teach them everything parents should be teaching at home. They don't have the ability, especially for a lot of these parents who let the kid run wild at home. The teacher only has them for so many hours, and if you don't reinforce those, if both parties aren't reinforcing those behavioral standards, then they fall apart both ways. So I would say that, to your point, we as parents have to understand that it is our responsibility to teach our kids a lot of these things. Mm-hmm. And those things, if you want to hand your kid off to somebody else, teach them reading, writing, arithmetic, fine. But when it comes to things like manners and behavior and discipline and how to properly address a daggone adult, guess what? Mom and Dad, if your kid goes to school without knowing all that, you screwed up. That's all there is to it.
Mute that.
Yes.
Until you dinged, I remember now. I can remember being in elementary school and one of my teachers asking, well, would you do that at home? I'm just going to use, would you dance on the table at home? Would your mama let you do that? And the answer was always going to be no. Well, then you don't get to do that at school. Well, I think now if I were to ask some of these kids, would you do that at home? They'd be like, yeah. Why wouldn't we do that at home? And and then I have nothing to stand on. So it has to start at home. And I know that we are more than likely preaching to the choir with this one, knowing who listens to our podcast. But if there is any indication or any slight chance that you are that person that's kind of backed off of your child as a priority and their education and the people that you are surrounding them with, and if you're sending them to a private or parochial school, then you are deciding where they go. Like if in public, you're kind of determined by where you live, but a private school or a religious school is, I mean, you've toured that school and you've decided that this is the best fit for your kid. Be a part of it. Like go to all the functions that those private schools have, and maybe even like those administrators on social media and get to kind of know,
stalk them.
Where, I wouldn't say stalk, but I mean, you need to know who your kids are around. Anyway,
People will tell you exactly who they are if you just sit back quietly and pay attention.
Yeah.
But what do kids need to succeed?
Well, a lot.
I think kids need a handful of things in the context of their education. I think, and this is just as a parent, but also as a teacher, which we'll talk about later. Like I think kids need a peaceful environment so they can learn. Like obviously if there's classroom disruptions or things that are really wrestling with their attention from the material, that's never going to work out. I think kids need structure, and that structure isn't just in the classroom, it's also at home. Like I
think it has to start at home first. Before we even get into the classroom, there has to be peace at home. There has to be structure at home. It has to start with the parents.
Yeah. So.
And this one says what do kids need to succeed, and the next banner says setting your child up for success and how mornings and nights are a key. Those kind of go together. It's so super important at night to put your child to bed in a peaceful manner. I see it in my own family. I see it with my friends. You know, when your child can't get to sleep at night, maybe you've had an argument, maybe there's a lot of screaming in your house, maybe there's just so much turmoil that they can't sleep restfully, and they're not getting the right number of hours of sleep because there's no parents need to be parents and teachers.
Ben, don't beat me to the punch.
In the house.
I'm the co-host.
Kids need, the proper number of hours of sleep. They need proper nutrition. They need all these things. And you can't send your kid to bed in a fight. You can't send your kid to bed with turmoil. And you can't send them off to school the next morning screaming and hollering. And what Phil and I did a long, long time ago, because we used to do this. We would wake up in a rush. We'd wake up in a panic. There'd be commotion all in the house. And we weren't like screaming and hollering. It wasn't like my house when I was growing up. We made sure that lunches were made the night before. Clothes were laid out. I mean, it really took us 20 minutes to get ready for the next day. And our mornings started to run so much more smoothly. There weren't any tears the next morning because we were rushing and trying to get out of the house. There wasn't guilt, the mom guilt of sending my kid off because we had such a rough morning. And the emails to teachers that I would send with, hey, look, we had a rough morning today. Piper's kind of upset. I mean, I used to send those emails, and I haven't sent that kind of an email in a very, very long time. So it's important what your nights, your evenings, and your mornings are like. And as the adult, you are totally responsible for that. I don't care if your child wakes up grumpy. We have a literal troll that wakes up in the mornings. What do you call her?
Bridge troll.
Yeah, the bridge troll. You go in there and
she's an angry little person.
She is angry. But you have to remember, as an adult, she's also waking up. She doesn't want to wake up, and in about 10 minutes, when she does finally wake up, she'll be our sweet little kid again.
And she's also Gillian Rabelais' child, so that. Yeah, I get it. Look, I get it from both sides. Because I roll over to my loving, sweet, beautiful wife with her curly hair and say, "Good morning, honey," and she shoots laser beams through my eye sockets every morning. And she's not denying it.
I do think that an adult's reaction
Changes the subject.
Well, we're kind of doing something here. We're not talking about me. A parent's reaction to their child is key. I think as an adult, you have to be able to control your emotions and the way that you respond to your child. Because ultimately what you're doing is showing them how to react to stressful situations. And if you're blowing up on your kid because you're stressed, all you're showing him is that, or her, is that it's okay, that this is how mom reacts when she's stressed. And well, I'm stressed too, so I'm going to react the same way. And what you've got now is this really nasty cycle of just stressed out people, when all you have to do is, as an adult, is take a deep breath and react to your child in an appropriate manner, and keep that stress out of your house. Keep it out at night, keep it out in the morning. And I don't know how much more I can say about that, is that you're the adult, you're the parent, act like one. Yeah. Act like an adult.
And to that end, as far as like setting your child for success, morning and nights being key, like every child is different. Like when I was a child, I wouldn't say I was ever a morning person, but I've always been the person that says, like I did this morning, I set an alarm, except for this morning I was having a really rough morning getting out of bed. But like most of the time I'll set an alarm, I'll roll myself out of bed, and 7 o'clock in the morning I'm getting the lawnmower ready to do yard work, or I'm doing whatever. That's just always been my way. So like I can remember being in school, and for a lot of years I would set the alarm earlier than I had to wake up, so that by the time it was time to, quote, get out of bed, I was already awake, I was alert, I had my stuff laid out. And like those are lessons I tried to pass to Piper, because she's not a morning person and she hates waking up early. But that's why I was really the one that was trying to push with her for a lot of those years. Like, honey, just get your clothes out the night before, get your shoes laid out, get your socks laid out. And that was two things. First of all, it was making sure that the laundry person didn't screw up and not have clean uniforms ready for her, because it happened a handful of times. Like we'd get to the morning, "Oh, Dad, I don't have a shirt. I don't have this. I don't have that." I'm like, "Well, I can't fix the problem now, honey." So that's why we started really getting on her about, you have to lay your clothes out the night before, because that's my last opportunity to do laundry if I need to, late at night.
Yeah.
And then as far as like making the lunches and everything, I mean, that was just my point of view was like, okay, the problem we're having here is that you're trying to cram 40 minutes of work in 20 minutes. So there's two ways to fix this problem. Either y'all both wake up earlier, which neither one of y'all wanted to do, and that's fine, 2 ways to skin a cat, or you have to remove 20 minutes of work from this equation, which was do some prep work the night before. And I guess my point of view is like Gillian saying, to reinforce that, is the key here is you have to try to remove the stress. The stress, if you start that, and I'm sure like most adults would feel this too, like if you start the morning off where like you walk out to your car to commute to work, got a flat tire, that whole day feels like it's shot. Even if the rest of the day is beautiful, it doesn't matter. Like you started off on this low note, and it just emotionally, that kind of breaks you down a little bit. And I would say that for children that haven't learned the resilience that we have, that's even worse. So I would say anything you can do to like put them on an upward trajectory starting in the morning, and that starts with the nighttime routine, getting them wound down, taking away all the excitement, the screens, the game systems, and all the nonsense, and putting like whatever works for your child, putting them into the pipeline towards a good restful sleep. Whatever routine works for them, that's got to become a routine. And I would also say that routine is a big part of this. Like,
kids thrive on routine. They know what's coming. They know that we've eaten dinner, now it's time to go brush my teeth and take a bath. They know that it's after bath time comes, maybe, what did he say?
Do you have coffee in your hand from when you do that? I pretty much have coffee in my hand from the time I wake up until about 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon usually.
This guy, I don't even get coffee out of the coffee pot. anymore.
I can make you more. I can make more coffee.
He doesn't make anything for me. I'm joking. He makes me lattes. Anyway,
Ugh.
darn it! I keep forgetting what I was talking about.
It's karma because you twisted the knife by saying I don't make you coffee.
Your lattes are really good. When they learn routine, there's no surprises, and it means that there's little stress, and it means that they can calm down because they know what's coming. Like I said, they know that after dinner they're going to go take a bath. They know, hopefully, maybe, if this is how you do it in your household, because this is still how we do it in our household, and she's 11, it's the after baths, everybody goes and crawls in the bed. Now, Piper lays across the foot of our bed now because she's the size of a small adult. And we still call it a cartoon. We all watch a cartoon together. It's not a cartoon anymore, but we all watch one episode together. And it's our time to chill together, all in one place, in a comfortable setting. And we talk about what's coming up tomorrow. We talk about, how did your day go? What was your favorite part of the day? Piper used to hate when I asked these questions. What was your favorite part of the day? What was your least favorite part of the day? What was the hardest thing that you had to do today? Ask those questions because you would be so surprised what they say. What was the most beautiful thing you saw today? What was the most beautiful thing you heard today? What was, just ask those questions and kind of get their perspective and make them kind of think. And a lot of times there was like, yeah, we worked. Yeah, I read. Yeah, okay. My favorite part of the day was, we're going home. What's for dinner, Mom? But there are some days where she did open up and she did talk about her day a little bit more, and you got to kind of understand the dynamic in her classroom and what her teachers were doing. Did she have a substitute today? Was it really hard eating lunch by herself today? This is just being a part of your kid's life when you can't be a part of them. I can't go and sit in the desk next to her all day. I am not a helicopter mom, but I kind of hover sometimes. I want to make sure that the people that I'm entrusting to take care of my kid is actually doing their job. Because if not, then we need to change that situation. But when we're home, it's my responsibility, it's Dad's responsibility to kind of cradle those emotions and teach her how to cope with those emotions from the day. We need to talk about the hard stuff. We need to talk about what that little girl said that made you cry on the playground today. We need to talk about the good things. Like, you found the golden egg at the Easter egg hunt today. That was so amazing, baby. We need to have those conversations with our kids. And I think this generation that are raising children, I think it is kind of shifting. I think you are starting to see a shift in how parents are raising their kids again. But I think for so long, kids have just been thrown some sort of device and basically told to keep quiet, shut up, watch your cartoon, whatever. It's at dinner tables, it's in restaurants, it's on the couch at home, it's everywhere. Like, you can't get away from seeing a child that just has a device in front of them when, I don't know. I don't want to say parents who do that are just the be all end all of bad parenting. I don't think that, but I do think that we use those things as a crutch. There is a rule in this house. There are absolutely no electronics unless there is an emergency or something is like going on at the same time that we're eating dinner. There are no electronics at the table. There are absolutely none.
Well, the phrase is, the colloquial term is digital nanny. It's here, my child will be entertained so I can go on about my own nonsense, which usually is the adult being entertained by their own digital nanny, which is really disheartening. But like, I would allege, because to your point, like, I don't think the problem is allowing your children to have a tablet or a phone or whatever.
Right.
What I do think we have to do, because like you and I have had this conversation in the realm of like dieting, where I've come to the point where I regard sugar as a recreational drug. Like, sugar is really fun and it tastes really good, and in small amounts it's not horrible for you. Mm-hmm. But in large amounts, you get diabetes and your feet rot off. So you have to regard this as in moderation, it's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. But if you overdo it, it's bad. And I look at tablets, TVs, screens. I look at all that in the same guise. It's all recreational drugs. If you allow your child to overindulge, not only are they literally learning F all from it, but they're also not learning basic social skills. They're not learning how to self-soothe. They're not learning how to be. I used to tell you all the time, I'm like, kids need to learn how to be bored. Because guess what?
Oh, I totally agree.
Part of being an adult is learning how to be bored. There is very little fun to be had at my workplace. But it pays the bills. So like I've had to learn as a 40-year-old man like how to tolerate a certain level of discomfort and emotional discomfort even so that I can accomplish things. Anybody that's ever been to the DMV knows what it's like to be bored. But you got to do it. So I guess I look at it as if you regard giving your child access to a screen as a recreational drug, if you approach it from that mindset of, I can give it to you a little here or there because it's fun, but if you overindulge, it's bad for you, then I think you will start to make the proper, what I consider to be the proper decisions and limit it and not use it to fully obfuscate your responsibility to teach that child how to be bored, how to self-soothe, how to sit still. Because, most of the time when I see it, it is in restaurants. It's small kids who, when I was that age, I was either not brought out in public because I was a little a-hole, or I frankly would get told, like, I'm going to string you up by your toes if you don't sit still and behave yourself. And these kids are not being taught that. And if you don't teach it to them now, it's just going to kick the can down the road.
And from a teacher's point of view, it's coming into the classroom.
Yeah.
We're expected not just to teach your children, we're expected to entertain them. And
these two go together too.
They do. The banner that's up right now, it says, always remember you are your child's first and last teacher. And the next banner says points of view from a teacher and a mom. But that behavior comes into the classroom. And what I teach is a fun subject. It's called an enrichment subject. So it's not, I get to create and write my own curriculum. There are no state standards for what I teach. Basically, I've been told, you're passionate about this subject and you have been in this field for so long, teach your passion.
Which I just have to say, that is probably more true to the original foundational spirit of what a teacher really was. Like, a teacher was never... A teacher, if we go back 100 years or 200 years, was never, this is the curriculum you teach, don't deviate from it. A teacher was told, hey, you know how to math. Teach the children how to math.
Yeah.
And then, teaching wasn't just administering a program. Teaching was a literal skill, and well thought of tutors and teachers were paid a very reasonable sum of money, a good living, because they were good at teaching. And teaching didn't mean, open your book to page 157 today, do problems 1 through 10. It was, I'm going to teach you from 1 + 1 = 2 all the way to calculus. I'm going to teach you all that. I'm going to teach you how to get there. I guess to me, the situation you've been put in as a quote-unquote only an enrichment or a STEM teacher is truer to what a teacher is supposed to be, because you know the material, and you have the freedom to say, NASA is shooting rockets into space today, so we're going to talk about rockets. Or SpaceX launch day, we're going to talk about rockets. You've literally
We're not going to talk about rockets. We're going to go launch rockets.
But I guess that's
yes,
what
and that's what I love about our school so much. We do parent tours all the time. I can't even remember what the rotation of how many tours we have in a year, but they tour them through all the classrooms. They come into all the enrichments, and I love when they come into mine because I get to tell them the way that I teach is the beginning of the year, mainly 1st through 7th grade. I'm going to ask the kids, give me the top 10 things you want to learn about. What are the top 10 things you want to explore this year while I have you? And y'all, they start spouting off some of the craziest stuff, but I'm going to find a way to teach it. And I was able to teach all 10 things to all grade levels this past year. But I tell those parents that, your kids, this is their time in my classroom to explore the things that they're not going to get to explore in history and ELA and math and science, that they're going to explore in all those things. But I get to teach them what they want to know. And I am not the only one at my school that gets to do that. We have been given the freedom as teachers to look at our curriculum, look at our state standards, and say, this is the stuff we have to teach, but we're also going to include these things as well, because this is what I'm passionate about. This is what they need to know moving forward to get into high school. This is a fun subject. This is whatever. Like, we get to incorporate all the cool stuff, which is another really big, reason we moved Piper into private school. She is getting a better education in just general classroom. Like, she's no longer, we don't have a gifted program at this school, but she's getting a better education just in a regular class setting than she was in a gifted program where she was supposed to be getting more and challenging and all those things at the public school. She's getting it even more at private.
And she's also getting a more diverse education.
Well,
She's being educated in like the enrichment programs, and this was something like you and I talked about, was when she was in the public school system, we were always looking for like art classes or something we could pay money for in the afternoons to give her the enrichment and give her opportunities like to step out of the basic subjects and learn new skills or learn new things. And here, that's all baked into the pie.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But point of view from a teacher and a mom, I will say that my biggest challenge last year as a teacher was discipline. It was not just discipline, but how children act today. The lack of discipline, the lack of respect, the lack of there was so much. There was just, I would say probably 60% of my time was spent trying to get students to just stop talking, like be respectful and stop treating the adults and your teachers like crap because you just feel like you can do whatever you want to do, because at home they can just do whatever they want to do. And it's not just in our private school, it's in every single classroom across America right now. And that is why you're seeing such a teacher shortage, is because we don't have time to teach your kids because we're so involved with trying to just control their behavior that we don't have time to teach them. And so, yeah, I can understand why we are tied for 5th in the 48th state for education, because the parents have not stepped back up to teaching their kids how to behave in a classroom. And it is, I just feel like it's not completely the teacher's responsibility to teach your kids that. And you can't then come back and say, well, Johnny made an F on this test, why did you do that? And it was like, it's just like, that's not my fault. I'm teaching Johnny right now. All I can do is teach Johnny is sit in your desk for 5 minutes. We're going to get up in a minute. We're going to have a brain break. We're going to do whatever, but I need you to stop disrupting class. That's the biggest thing. Johnny failed the test because Johnny doesn't feel like he has to be here. Mm-hmm. And that starts at home. It really does start at home. I'm sorry, I'm on my soapbox now.
It's okay.
I do love my students and I love my parents and I love my school, but it is
frustrating.
It is frustrating that most of my day is spent just regulating behavior.
So all these bullet points except for this one were Gillian's. I added this one, which kind of goes along with from points of view from a teacher and a mom or a teacher and a parent. But like, this is something I'm kind of notorious for saying, not just in this house, but with people, is that we as parents are our child's first and last teacher. Like, before she ever met a public school or private school teacher, it was me. It was you. We were the ones who had to teach her how to behave, what manners were, how to address adults. We had to teach her things like honesty and diligence in her tasks. And I feel like that's an element that's missing from this conversation, not with us, but with a lot of people when they talk about the school system and their children's education, is that, like, my biggest frustration is when I see somebody say, well, they should teach that at school. Because it's usually in the guise of like, well, they don't teach kids how to balance their checkbook, or they don't teach them life skills, or they don't teach them this. And I'm like, where the F are their parents? It's not the school's job to teach my child how not to be a little a-hole. Mm-hmm. It's not the school's responsibility to teach my child what proper decent behavior and morals are. It's not their job to teach her how to cook her own meals, or how to help out around the house, or how to like pursue a career. It's not the school's job to teach her any of that. It's mine and yours. And I think that's where I get very frustrated with parents. Like my frustrations with school systems in general, and public school systems more specifically, is like not a surprise to anybody. I've been pretty open about that for a long time. But my frustration with parents is almost equal, because I see parents attempting to offload their responsibility to be parents to the schools and to the teachers and to the administrations and the bureaucracies. And that's why I put this in here, is that you are always your child's first and last teacher. The first things your child learns before they ever go walk into a school will come from you. And years after that child has finished their education, the last things they learn from you at the end of your life is going to be learned from you. Mm-hmm. You are going to teach that child how to be a well-behaved child, and then eventually how to be a young man or a young woman, and then potentially how to be a husband and a wife, and potentially how to be a mother or a father. You're going to teach that child well beyond their primary education and even their secondary education. And I think that is like so important to hammer on, because I see so many parents who, whether it's laziness or whether it's just being overwhelmed with, all the responsibilities of two working parents, nobody home with the kids, everybody's running around not eating nothing the whole day. But regardless of what the mechanism is causing it, I see this intense want to say, here's my child, you take care of them. And my point of view is like, no, that's not only is it not the school's responsibility, I don't want the school teaching my child those things. I want to put my own knowledge, my own experiences into my child, because I feel like that is what I want to be that's what I want my child to carry with her. If for no other reason than simply like the selfish idea of the fact that it's not like when Piper grows up, she's going to be Piper Cedarwood. Her last name's always going to be Rabelais. She's always going to be our child, and people will always know her, or potentially for a long time will know her as Gillian and Phil's child. So I feel like parents need to take some personal, individual ownership of your child's education, and consider that education is a whole lot more than math and reading scores. It is all the knowledge that we poured into that child, to the point where like I even enjoy helping her with her homework. Like she did the science experiment here on the table the other day. It was the little electrical set that had the electromagnet and everything. And we were figuring stuff out. And I was showing her, like, if you wire it this way, the magnet's stronger. If you wire it this way, it's not. And this is why. And you could just see her face light up when she realized that. She thought it was the coolest thing on earth. And Dad knows all this because Dad used to do a lot of car audio electrical wiring. So 12-volt circuits and everything are just baked into my head. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think that's a part of this conversation that has to be restated, because so many parents don't seem to get it. Oh, sorry. And that scares and saddens me all at the same time.
Yeah. I think Nina, down in the comments, I won't read the whole thing, but she did say that there was something that happened in her son's class, and the teacher was happy to have them in her corner once everything was settled, is basically what she just said. And I think, at least for me, and I know that this is true for all of my teacher friends, if we're doing our job right, we want to know that parents are in our corner. I mean, there were some moments last year where I had to email parents because their child had broken their Chromebooks, which meant that now the parent was going to have to pay a hefty fee to get a new Chromebook for their kid. And I was so afraid that I was going to be met with, well, not my child. My child didn't do that. Somebody else did that. And I did get that. I got the well, somebody else broke it, and why am I responsible for that? I would have loved for that parent to be like, let me look into it. Let me ask them what happened. But I know I signed the contract, and I know that ultimately I'm responsible for this Chromebook. It would have been nice to know going into it that these parents are in my corner. They understand my position in this. They understand I'm just doing my job. And I'm smiling, Stuart. I'm smiling. I'm trying not to fall asleep, Stuart.
But you did have one parent that was like, yeah, that sounds like my kid.
Yeah. And just tell me what the fee is. We'll pay it, whatever. But I think you're right. I think teachers want to know that their students' parents are in their corner. They want to know that their administration is in their corner, that the community is in their corner, and school board is in their corner. So when you're going out and you're electing these new officials into the school board, look for the people that are going to support the teachers. And if you can't be there for the parties, if you can't be there to help in the classroom or volunteer and things like that, do what you can. And even if it's just as simple as making sure that your child is going to school, leaving a peaceful situation and transitioning to a school day, or that your child is coming home from school and transitioning into a peaceful evening, that is going to help your teacher so much. It's going to do leaps and bounds for your children, but it's going to help your child's teacher as well, which is going to then affect the rest of the class. And it's a domino effect of things that if you just start from home that you can do. It's going to just set everyone up for success, and not everybody's going to do it. I know that. There are some really crappy people out there who will never prioritize their kids, that will never show up for them, that will never do the things that they're supposed to do as parents, and you often, wonder, why did you become a parent?
Accident mostly.
But anyway, if you can't show up, I know that teachers have wish lists. Buy something off the wish list, because even in a private school, I still would love things that are not going to be approved on a purchase order. And that's fine. I get that. There's a budget that all schools have to work around, but that is going to help their teacher set them up for success too. It's going to help them to put things into the classroom that they otherwise wouldn't have, and give them something new to focus on, or something that's going to help them do their job, and things like that. So there's so many ways that you can support teachers, especially the ones that are not that are getting a $500 raise every 7 years. There's ways that you can be present, and it starts at home. I've said that 1,000 times today. It starts at home, but you have to be in that teacher's corner.
I would also say,
step off my soapbox.
You tell me, but as we start to wrap this up, I think open lines of communication is probably one of the greatest things that a parent could give to a teacher. Because once that teacher realizes that parent is, whether or not they can make the meetings and all the extracurricular stuff, because some parents just can't because of the nature of their job. We know people that work offshore, and you can't get off the rig because your kid has a field trip. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
We know a family that's the reason he left that line of work, because he was missing out on so much of his kids' lives. But I would say that just for the teacher to know the parents are there, they can't come up to the school all the time, but they're there, they're interested, they're engaged, they want to know what's going on with their child at school, they want to know how they can help at home. I feel like just that is an enormous boost to that teacher, because it tells the teacher loud and clear, I have an ally in this. If there's behavior that has to be modified, the parent is willing and waiting to help modulate this behavior. If there's a problem with learning the curriculum or difficulty there, the parent is there. They're willing. They're looking to help. And I feel like just for the teachers to know, like you said, to know everybody's in their corner, I feel like make sure that line of communication's wide open is a big help to us. And because you work at the school Piper goes to, that kind of makes it a kind of a foregone conclusion, because you can literally have teachers walk up to you on at the school. But even before now, we maintain pretty regular communication with her teachers, tried to at least, so that they understood that if something's going on with our kid, we don't want to find out about it at report card time. We don't want to find out about it
Yeah. Why didn't you tell me before? We could have helped fix this problem, just like
Yeah.
Nina said in the comments. I'm willing and ready to, if there's a problem, what do I need to do? I need to help her, I need to help you. And I think, too, email your teachers and check on them. Hey, it's been a month, and the school, we just got back to school. It's almost September. How's it going? Are you okay? Can I bring you a coffee in Carline tomorrow? What do you take from your local coffee shop? Or here's a $10 gift card to Hobby Lobby. I understand that there's two sides of the story when it comes to teachers. A lot of people feel like, well, you only work 10 months out of the year and you get summers off and you have all the holidays off and all that stuff. I worked all summer. I did have time off, but I literally did work this summer, and I work during holidays too. Like I'm always writing lesson plans or finding something new and interesting for the kids. So it's not like we just brain freeze and don't get to concentrate on the kids. We're always working in our classrooms and things like that. But being in their corner also means that we're not just checking in on our kids, we're checking in on our teachers. And like I said earlier in the episode, it's such a different environment now than when we went to school. And teachers need that support from their parents. And even if it's just an email like, hey, how's your day? I know you've had a rough week, or I know your class has had a rough week, or hey, there's a field trip coming up, what can I do to help? Or, whatever, just, anyway, yeah, be in their corner. I don't know what else to say.
Oh no, I think this has been, I hope this has been helpful for people. I know that back to school time
It's helpful for me.
I know that back to school time can be very stressful for kids sometimes, for parents. I know it can be stressful for the teachers and the administrations.
Yeah, I'm already nervous. I'm going to have to take a melatonin to help me sleep tonight, because back to school tomorrow. Kids come on Wednesday for pictures, and then Thursday's the first day of school, and it's just kind of like,
it's going to be fine.
I know. It's going to be fine. I'm excited to see everybody.
Yeah.
But what were you saying? I'm sorry.
I was just saying, like, I really, no, I don't think we can give Franklin Horton books to
for the classrooms, yes. Franklin Horton books, no.
No Franklin Horton
I'm
for
gonna
7th
say
graders.
No. I have this thing in my classroom that I'm implementing this year, because we do a lot of group projects and we do a lot of individual projects, and I always get the question, well, Ms. Rabelais, I'm done. What can I do now? And most often what they want to do is play on their Chromebooks, and that's not an option this year. They can read, they can, and I have this thing that called Trump Miss Rabelais, so they have to do their research.
Stump Miss Rabelais?
Stump, I'm sorry, not Trump. Stump Miss Rabelais. They can do their research, they can pull books from my library, or they can go to the library and find a subject that they think that they can stump me in, which I think would be fun. But anyway, yes, books for the classroom. Yes, so much out of your own pocket. Nina, I've pulled so much money out of savings, don't tell Phil, just to buy supplies for my classroom.
I do our taxes, guys. I'm aware.
So, anyway, yes, those Amazon wish lists. Find your teacher's Amazon wish list and fill that wish list. I'm telling you, that is one way to support your teacher, because the stuff on those wish lists aren't for their benefit. It is totally for your kids. Some of it is going to be interactives for your kids. Some of it's going to, yes, find those wish lists and buy the stuff off those wish lists.
Yeah, but I would also say, just to close this out, like, it's going to be okay. We all have to remember that, like, our ultimate goal is to make sure that our children are well educated to succeed in life. Not all that education is supposed to occur at school. A lot of it's supposed to occur at home. And I feel like if we're doing the work at home that is necessary, and we are holding our teachers accountable for their end of things, then I feel like the kids will be okay. Mm-hmm. But what we cannot fall into the trap of is allowing whether it be public or private school, we cannot fall in the trap of allowing them to take 100% of the responsibility for educating our kids with no breaks and with no oversight.
Yeah,
We can't allow the kids to only be taught the test, because that's not education. And we can't ever...
That's not the teacher, that's your school board.
Yes.
Go ahead.
But we also cannot allow ourselves as parents to, like Garden Girl was saying, shuck our responsibility to be their first educator. We can't allow any of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if everybody takes what we've said to heart and starts those open lines of communication with their teachers and with the children's education team, let them know you're engaged, you're paying attention, you want to know what the curriculum is, you want to know what's going on. I feel like, things will probably work out. You just always have to bear in mind what your ultimate goal is and whose responsibility that goal really is.
Mm-hmm.
Because the moment you fall into the trap of, I dropped them off at school, my job is done, you've already screwed up.
Yeah.
All right.
Aw, thanks. That's very kind.
I
He said
agree
we
with
need
him.
more teachers like me.
I agree with him. But we have to
I'm
wrap...
the teacher that I wanted. Yes, okay, anyway, we're wrapping up. Thank you for watching. I don't think I have any bullet points to talk to you about this evening, or whatever time it is in the day. Prepper Camp is coming up. Matter of Facts is going to roll live in about 45 minutes. So if you have
45 minutes.
So if you have nothing else to do and you want to see us again with a few guests,
She'll be on.
I'll be on Matter of Facts today. So So anyway, we always appreciate you tuning in and being a part of the show, and we will see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Have a great back to school.
Hallelujah.
Yes, back to school. Yay! Bye, everybody.
Bye.